watch Idris Elba fight a lion. I don't have any segue. I have no segue for this. Normally I would start out, I'd compare it to other films and gradually build into my main point. I got nothing here. I mean, I've got things, but, it's Idris Elba fights a fucking lion. What more could you want? It delivers on its promise. You definitely see Idris Elba fight a lion, so, I don't know what else you want from me. I don't know what you want from me, movie. How else am I supposed to critique this? It's Idris Elba fights a lion. Okay. So I guess we're just going to jump right into this, because this is one of those movies that what you see is what you get. And I guess what's funny is this evening I went and saw See How They Run, and the theme for the trailers that showed before that movie seemed to be movies that you have no idea what the fuck they're about based on the trailer. These were all films, with like one exception, where you're just like, okay, what is this actually about? And then you have movies like this one where it's just right there. You've seen the trailer, you've essentially seen the movie. But just for the sake of argument, let's go through this. So, whoa. Now, I have driven over these speed bumps before. That has never happened. That's so weird. Anywho, so let's go over this just for the sake of argument, okay? So in this film, Idris Elba takes his two daughters back to Africa, where their mother was from. Their mother is recently deceased. They meet up with an old friend of his who is a kind of a game warden, park ranger kind of thing for this animal preserve. He takes them on a lovely tour, and in the midst of that tour, they have an encounter with, I guess the term would be a rogue lion that has just started fucking people up for seemingly, not so much for no reason, but just behaving in ways that lions do not traditionally behave. As lions traditionally, from what I understand, hunt for food and protection. They're not likely to kill something and then not eat it. But this lion is just going around and just fucking up everything and everybody it comes into contact with. Takes out an entire village and then proceeds to trap our heroes and stalk them, and it's a man versus nature thing, as Idris Elba has to protect his children and try to get them out of there and escape from the man-eating lion. So, there's not a lot of subtext. It tries to be about more than it is. It tries to, shoehorn some lessons in there about protecting your family and finally being there for your family, and he needs, he feels guilty because his wife and him were separated when she got sick, and he's a doctor, and he didn't know she was sick, or he wasn't able to save her, or whatever, and it's the family coming together. I just have to say this, and we'll kind of get into the pros and cons of this movie here in a second, but just of this genre specifically, I have to ask, why do we feel like there always has to be some kind of family trauma in the past that the brushes with death will somehow help them overcome? It is such a tired cliche, and this movie and this genre is some of the most cliches you're ever going to cliche. In a movie like this, to me, the fight for survival is drama enough. I don't need people working through their divorce and abandonment issues in the midst of trying to survive a man-eating lion. And there are plenty of examples of this. The Martian. Granted, a more intellectual picture than this one, but, there's no forced drama there. He's trapped on Mars. You got to get him out. Or you want something a little closer. The director of this film also directed one of my family's favorite summer films, Everest. And there's no family trauma in that. There are people with issues just like everybody else, but they're, going there to work through my divorce or going there to work through my family problems, it's not in the cards. It's people climb a mountain and the mountain fucks them up. That's the gist of it. You didn't need anything else to add more drama to it. Or any drama that was there was simply to give the characters a little bit more depth. You don't need that here. You really don't. But anyway, that's just kind of a complaint with this genre of film in general. And it is a bit of a pain in the ass when it comes to this movie, and I'll talk about that here in a minute. But let's talk about pros first, before I get bitchy on this. Let's talk pros. I gotta say, this was a much better movie than I thought it was gonna be. Wholeheartedly. I watched this thing expecting, and that's been kind of a theme this year for some of these films. There's so many of these movies that I have sat down to watch or gone to the theater to watch, and I am gonna rip this motherfucker apart. And I end up actually enjoying the film. I am as surprised as anybody that I gave a Tom Cruise movie a positive review. But, like I say, things surprise you. And this one is, yes, it's basic, but I think it's very important that we stress basic is not a bad thing. Tropes are not a bad thing. Cliches are not necessarily a bad thing because they're time savers. You don't waste a lot of time establishing all this stuff. You just get right into it. The audience knows who the characters are. We know what the situation is, and you can just do your thing, and the creativity is in how you alter the formula or what you add to it. And that being the case, I think this film is fairly good. It succeeds in what it's meaning to do. It's pretty exciting. The situation is pretty unique. They do a lot of good stuff with it, and I would be lying if I said there weren't some pretty tense moments in there where I was like, oh shit, or if I didn't, in my chair, like that once or twice. So I mean, it did what it planned to do and did it fairly well. I noticed the director, this is neither a pro nor con. The director in this film really favors long tracking shots. There are a ton of films, anytime they're out of the car, they try to keep everything in one long take. And I believe when they're inside the Jeep, where they spend most of the second act of the movie, that's where you get a lot of cuts. But when they're out of it, it's kind of one long tracking shot all the time, and that's set up even from the beginning. Again, that's neither a pro nor con, just an observation I made. Another great pro to this one, well, it's beautifully shot. The director is really good at these environments and making them appear both beautiful and hostile at the same time, or being able to turn on a dime and have you see the beauty of it, but also see the danger of it. So it's beautifully shot, and it stars Idris Elba, which in my opinion is always a plus. And again, it's a cliche. That must be my word for this review, cliche. But Idris Elba is good in anything. He really is. And I've said that before about other actors, but he's just great. He's British, so when you hire him for one of these movies, he's going to give you everything he's got from start to finish and treat it just as he would if he was doing Shakespeare. So, Idris Elba's just really brilliant. And I think he is uniquely talented and uniquely suited for a film like this. Because for a movie like this, you need a character that the audience can believe, A, is a doctor and kind of a regular Joe, but also capable of surviving an encounter with a lion. And Idris Elba has this unique talent. I'm not sure how he does this. It's brilliant acting, or it could be the way he's photographed. Because Idris Elba is not a small dude. Like, he's a big guy. Not just tall, but he is muscular. Right? He is he's a strapping gentleman. And yet, in this film, in the early goings, you truly believe this is just a guy who's, he's just a doctor. You don't think of him as a superhero, or, he's not Arnold Schwarzenegger, is what I'm saying. And yet, when he needs to turn it on and be a badass, you completely believe it. I also have to say that I appreciate how this movie doesn't have him be superhumanly strong. I remember a few years back I reviewed the shark movie The Shallows, which I thought was a pretty good movie, despite kind of the weird cartoony ending of it. And a lot of people hated the cartoony ending. I didn't mind it so much because I thought the movie had earned it. But it was still a fairly, Tom and Jerry-esque ending. And from the trailers of this, you thought that's what this was going to be, that, this was going to end with Idris Elba fighting a lion, and beating the shit out of it. And that is not what happens. He gets the shit kicked out of him. Like, the lion fucks him up, as a lion would if this was the situation. So it did not suddenly make him Superman, And I respect that. I also have to say, one place I was proven wrong is that one of the concerns I had from the trailer, and I've mentioned this in other reviews, is I was concerned about the CGI on the lion. Because in a lot of movies, I am super glad, and I've said this before, I'll say it again, that for movies like this, we don't use live animals anymore, trained or otherwise. I like that. I mean, I'm assuming they might have used a couple of trained ones for some shots, but I don't know. But the downfall to that is sometimes the CGI on those animals looks very, very fake. They look too cartoony. They move a little too smooth, or they emote a bit more than an animal does, and it just breaks the illusion. And I have to say that for the most part, I felt the CGI in this was pretty damn good. The lion moved and reacted as you kind of thought a live animal would. There are a few moments when it's leaping at people and stuff where, like, that's looking a little too much. A couple of the big leaps from the trailers are, it's like, okay, I get it. I don't want an actual lion doing this, but at the same time, I don't know. The CGI looked a little cartoony, but for the most part, I thought they did a really good job, and the technology is really advanced, and there were times you thought it was an actual lion. I'm going to sneeze. Anyway, so I got to say, the CGI was better than I had anticipated. This is not a criticism. This is just I would have done it differently, which does not mean that it was done wrong. But I almost would have preferred if we didn't see the lion as much. I kind of wish we would have gone the Jaws route with it and maybe just seen a shape moving, or seen the paws or the eye, or something, and not had as much of the lion in it as we did, because in films like this and with situations like this, I'm just gonna, let's just bring up the comparison now. So there's a film that was out in the 90s, which I really need to do a Forgotten Gems review on, called The Ghost in the Darkness, which a lot of people have started comparing this film to them immediately after the trailers for a variety of reasons. And one of the things that movie did really well is, a lot of times, like I say, you don't see the full-on lion. You see a shape running, or you see the eyes as it's lowering down. And just like with Jaws, your imagination fills in the blanks, and that's more terrifying sometimes than actually seeing the creature. So that's a choice, I might have made a different one creatively, but so again, that's neither here nor there. But it does lead to some cons. There are some cons to this film. And one of them is linked to the Ghost in the Darkness as a concept. And one of them is linked to what I was talking about before, about this need to have the broken family in one of these movies. Because when you get that, what you immediately get is the snarky ass fucking teenager. I want to make it clear, I'm not picking on the actor. All right, the actor did a very good job. The young lady did a very fine job in what I'm sure is a very physically demanding role. So this is not me picking on the actor. This is me saying the character was just so fucking annoying. Because, of course, she's the snotty, you left us, I don't want to talk to you. And this teenager that in a crisis situation, is bringing up all this personal shit in the middle of trying to survive a life or death situation. Be like, really? Really? You wanna bring this up fucking now? Really? Shut the fuck up. We have other things to deal with. And two, that child who, in a crisis situation, does exactly what you tell her not to do. She had one job in a lot of this. Watch her sister. Her sister disappears. One job, stay in the car. She gets out of the car. It's like, just look, I can't say that I'm a parent, but I am in a position of being an adult in charge of very strong-willed children, which is a wonderful thing. But in a crisis situation such as this, I am sorry, with any of my students, it would have been, I don't care what your issue with me is right now, get your ass back in the car before I drag you there by your nostrils. Okay? It's just a very annoying character. Again, not the actor, the character. I want to be clear on that. The other issue I have, and this again is a creative one, but it's I think this one's a little bit more egregious. I did not need to know the origin of the lion. All right, so the origin is that its pride was killed off by poachers, and now it's just going ape shit on all humans. It's basically a revenge story, but with a lion. I didn't need that, especially if the purpose of this film is to be a thriller. I don't need to know why the lion is suddenly acting out of character for a lion. In fact, it makes it less scary to me if we know. Again, I must bring up The Ghost in the Darkness, which is based on a true story of these two male lions that just decided, apparently, while the English were trying to build this huge railroad bridge, the lions just decided, we're just going to start picking these people off, and apparently doing it for fun. And nobody really has any explanation as to what caused it, why they did this, why they were hunting when normally it's the females that hunt, where the rest of their pride was. These two lions just said, you know what, it seems like fun to pick these people off, and they did. And that gave that movie a much sharper edge, because when you don't understand the motive of a creature, that's what makes it unpredictable, and that's what makes it fearsome. And I think telling us point blank what the origin is, just it weakened the story. I also feel like, well, for the most part, like I said, tropes and cliches are not necessarily bad things. I think this movie really did not trust the intelligence of its audience. One, because it felt like it had to spell everything out for us. For one example, what I just gave. And then everything was a very clear setup, and they might as well just put a flashing neon line over everything going, this is going to pay off later. They go and visit a pride of lions that Idris Elba's friend raised, and he's talking about how you know, these two males protect the pride, and they'll protect it from outsiders and other lions, and if they come, they will rip it to shreds or die trying. It's like set up, set up, set up, set up. Look, spoiler alert, big time spoiler alert for the ending. Just, you know, be warned. You know, if you wanted to have the realistic ending that it had, where Idris Elba just kind of, you know, barely survives the fight with the lion until the two other lions get mad that it's in their territory and come and fuck it up, that's fine. That's a great ending. But you didn't need to explain it to us and then re-explain it to us afterwards. Just have it happen. And let us, as humans, kind of go, wow, animals are weird. I wonder why they attacked that lion. Why'd they save him? You know, just, yeah, I think it would have been more interesting if a lot of things were left unsaid or undiscovered or whatever you want to call it. But this movie really felt like it needed to handhold us through so much. And in my opinion, that weakened it. I think this film is decent. It was a fun time, but I think you really could have had an intense thriller here had you not felt the need to fall backwards onto cliches and a lack of respect for the intelligence of the audience. Of course, you know, that being said, I have to also point out that we do live in the era of cinema sins, which, again, I love cinema sins. I think they're funny, but they have kind of harbored an environment where everybody nitpicks everything, and if you don't have everything spelled out for you, you know, 20 million people online are going to go, but why did that happen? That doesn't make any sense. You know, so on the other hand, I guess I do sympathize with them and trying to make a movie that, you know, people are going to bitch about, you know, which I've just spent 20 minutes doing. So yeah, I get you're in a no-win situation there, fellas. I really do. Okay, so let's wrap this up because I don't think there's much more to say about this one. So final grade for Beast. I'm going to B-. B- on this one. I thought it was a fun time. Directorial choices, creative choices I would have made differently, and some truly irritating aspects to the story. But all in all, good time had with the premise, and it's Idris Elba fighting a fucking lion. So, I mean, you know, that's entertainment. Alrighty, so there you go. So thank you very much for joining me. Thanks for coming along. And as always, drive safe, and I will see you at the movies.